Today we discuss vocation, discernment, philosophy, and phenomenology, whatever that is, with Trenton Thieneman, our Archlew Seminarian, on Spirit Inspire, starting right now.
Broadcasting from the Cathedral of the Assumption in Louisville, Kentucky, this is Spirit Inspire. And now, here is your host.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Spirit Inspire. I'm your host today, John Soul, and joined with me are two of my illustrious co-hosts. One, what do you call him, a regular, Chuck Obichefu. Hello, Chuck.
Hey everyone, how you doing?
Yep, and another, as an OG, Eric Huff is back in the house.
Hey everybody.
Prodigal son.
Yeah.
Prodigal son returns.
Hey,
right?
happy to be back. I'm really excited for this episode.
It's a great gift. It's a great gift, and very happy to have you. And Vincent couldn't join with us today, and he's just going to have to either stumble upon this episode or he'll see it in a future episode. We do have Luce joining us today, but the real guest today is a good friend and seminarian, Trenton Thieneman. Trenton, thank you for being here with us.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for having me. It's awesome.
It's a great gift. So we are here just to share your story, your discernment, your vocation, talk a little bit about what discernment is, the philosophy of the church, but also of the priesthood and all of what you're called to do to serve the people of God in that sense. Obviously, you're not there yet. You're still in the process of discernment, but we always want to give people an opportunity to hear your heart, your faith journey, some of the people you knew, some of the places you've been, well, college, high school, grade school, and some of the different influences that led you in this direction. So the floor is yours. What do you say? What's your story?
Yeah, so I suppose I'll begin at the beginning, as it were.
I was born a baby.
I was born. No,
I was thinking Genesis, like in
yeah. Let's just go through all of salvation history, and then I'll get to.
I need to give you the context.
Isn't that the intro to The Hobbit? Let us begin at the beginning.
We'll start the Silmarillion version of Trenton.
No, I'll start. So I'll say like my freshman year of high school is kind of the beginning of relevance. So I went to DeSales High School, the great and honorable DeSales High School. And
I went there too. It's great.
Yeah. A lot of vocations came out of DeSales, which is pretty awesome. We have another one coming in, another seminarian coming in from DeSales this year.
Really?
Which I'm really excited about. Yeah.
Oh, it's awesome.
Yeah. So, so I went to DeSales High School. I went to St. Gabriel Elementary and Middle School. And as I'm entering high school, the graces of confirmation are starting to really take effect. I was confirmed toward the end of 8th grade, I think, if I remember right. And I'm entering... So I have this theology class, freshman year theology class with Mike Swearingen, he's currently the headmaster of Holy Angels Academy in Louisville. And what he does, so at the time, I was raised Catholic, but I never really took it seriously growing up. My parents didn't make me go to Mass. So I kind of stopped going to Mass at some point. I don't know when. And so, not really taking anything super seriously. Don't really know much about the faith, never really paid attention in classes in elementary, middle school. So Mike Swearingen comes in, and the first week of high school, he does everything in his power to horrify me. He's like the scariest teacher I've ever had. He like throws a kid out of class the first couple of days. He gives us a quiz, I think, on the second day of class, and we all fail it. And I'm like coming into high school, and I'm terrified of this guy.
Wow.
And so by like week 2, I'm locked in, paying attention every class. Like, okay, if I'm going to pass this class, I got to pay attention and I got to be on my best behavior. And so it sort of comes around as I'm paying more attention. There comes a point where he kind of starts to ease off a little bit, starts to let you kind of relax a little bit more in class. But at that point, you respect him already. You're a freshman in high school and all your bravado is gone because he horrified you the first week.
He knew what he was doing.
Yeah. It's very intentional. I've talked to him about it since then. But
I know Mike was that hardcore.
Oh, yeah.
I was there one day teaching the Bright program, the healthy relationship stuff, and the feast of the saint of the day was a martyr who had literally been disemboweled, and he deeply described to these freshmen how you were drawn and quartered and what that looks like. I was like, This sounds like a typical day.
LOL.
Yeah. That was how it was. I loved it. I loved
It's
that
awesome.
class. But eventually, like, you know, you have, and Mike Swearingen, he's a smart guy too. Like, he knows his stuff. He knows his theology. And eventually freshman year me was like, this guy, like everything he says makes sense. Like, this is all true. It sort of like dawned on me with time. And so I hit this point where I'm like wholly intellectually convinced the Catholic Church is everything's true. It's always been true. And I'm involved in this youth group at St. Gabriel. Mostly just like for fun. Like, I don't think I was drawn to it initially because like I had any particular desire to be in the church, but like my older siblings were in it. I always wanted to do it as a kid. This is a youth group at St. Gabriel, and they go on this mission trip to the Appalachian Mountains through an organization called Christian Appalachian Project that just like you go as a group and you help fix something up at
They
someone's
call it
house.
CAP for short.
Yeah, they do.
They're like, no cap.
No.
I'm not going to comment on that.
Oh my god!
You capping? I'm not capping.
I couldn't raise the funds to cap.
I know of that
That's why we're
project.
here,
It was a
because
good. I didn't get to go on it myself, but I knew many young people who went on that
Good.
experience.
Yeah,
It's
and I've heard
very
great things.
transformative.
Yeah, I loved it. I don't think I even realized how much it's influenced me. I think it's probably influenced me more than I know. And I only did it twice.
Interesting.
But because I would have gone the rest of high school, but it stopped with COVID my junior and senior year.
That was COVID.
Yeah.
You
So
were. Oh
yeah,
shoot.
yeah. So I went my freshman and sophomore year, and then COVID happened my junior senior year, so it didn't work out. I think that's why, at least it sounds right. Definitely senior years because of COVID. But anyway, yeah. So I go on this, and I said to my mom, who also really wanted me to be involved in this youth group, that like I don't think I'm going to keep doing this. Like, I think I'm kind of done. I don't really click with any of the people there. And my mom's like, just go on the spring break trip. Go to the Appalachians, and if you still want to leave, that's fine. So I did it, and everything changed radically. I was like, I love these people. I love this group. I love this program. So made a really good group of friends at that youth group. But while I was there was another group there from Michigan, this high school in Michigan. We're there with their chaplain, who's a priest of the Diocese of Kalamazoo, Michigan. And he, at some point, we were all together, and he kind of goes on like how he heard the call to the priesthood. And this is like the first, like, I'm wholly intellectually convinced of the Catholic faith. I'm like kind of growing up. Like, you're a freshman in high school. You're kind of realizing you're going to be an adult soon. You meet a young priest who's like, he's not like super far in age from you anymore, you know? So he's kind of the first priest I met who I kind of relate to. I'm kind of starting to get it. He gets it. And he tells us a story that basically culminates in, he was with a priest in spiritual direction, and he was really split 50-50 between going to seminary or asking this girl out and getting married. Like, very on the fence, had no idea. He's talking to a priest about it, and out of nowhere, he just hears like this very clear voice in his head, the voice of God, say, "Give me one reason why you should not be a priest." And he had no answer to that. He had no reason. But it was like, it went from 50-50, had no idea, to 100%, like, I need to be a priest. And that was just like wild to me. Like, I had never heard.
God one reason why God's like, give me one reason why you shouldn't be a priest.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, God said that to him very directly.
That's powerful.
It's beautiful. So that's like the first time I have the thought, I think, that like maybe I could do that. Maybe God wants me to do that too. So yeah, at this point, we're wholly intellectually convinced of the faith, have this idea, still not super actually practicing, like not really going to mass, not really going to confession, but like I know that's a bad thing. I just like have not fixed it at this point, you know.
Have you anybody seen where Shane Gillis is like, I know I'm a good bad Catholic, so I know I shouldn't go to communion and stuff. Like he's definitely aware of it. But the other guy on his podcast, what is it, Shane and
I've only seen a couple episodes.
Yeah, so
I
the other guy on the
actually know- I don't
podcast
think I
is
know
a
who that
bad,
is.
bad Catholic because he like still does that. He's like, what? I just still go up and stuff. He's like, you shouldn't do that.
Is he like John Hamm level where he's like eating the
No,
host
goodness, no, that's so bad. Yeah, that's so rough.
Yeah,
no,
we've
no.
had some pretty rough stuff. There was that scandalous TV show on Netflix recently about that.
It's on Apple.
Yeah.
It's on Apple TV.
Rough couple of weeks for that, but yeah. So you were a good, bad Catholic at this point because
Yeah.
you knew
That's a
it
great way
wasn't
of
good.
describing it.
He was a woke Catholic. He understood. He's awakened.
Interesting.
I would say awakened.
Yeah, I don't know if I would say
wouldn't
woke
say
Catholic.
You saw the good. You wanted the good. You just didn't know how to live this out yet.
Yeah, that's probably pretty true. That's how I describe it.
I would say woke is you see the bad, you want the bad, you only think about the bad.
I wouldn't use the word woke.
But you consider it good, and that's the worst part.
I think God only wants people who were able to self-mortify and they know how dead they are, right? How dead they are in their sins.
Yeah. So this moment in your life is like the longing for the promise, right? There's this desire for more in your life. So what was that? What was that like? Like, how do you pour into that a little bit?
That's interesting. Yeah, I don't. It's hard to remember like exactly what I was feeling and thinking. I don't know if I would even call it a desire for more. I think I would just call it like an intellectual like fascination. Like I was just I was like very fascinated by the doctrines of the church, but it like I don't even think it clicked in my head. Like I think like I knew like I should be going to mass, but like I don't think it clicked in my head like I need this or like I desire this strongly. It was like a purely like act of the intellect for me.
Wow.
And like everything else kind of came later. So and then like it's interesting too because the like sort of spring break Appalachian trip happens like kind of in the middle of it, but that's my freshman year, and it's not really till like the summer, like I think before my junior year, so it's like a year and a half later where I'm like, okay, I actually need to do this. Like I need to start going to mass. Like this isn't like a so yeah, the summer of my junior year comes around and it like clicks in my head. Like I need to go to mass. I need to start going to confession regularly. I need to kind of get my life together. This isn't just an intellectual fixation. This is real. This is, this pertains to my eternal salvation.
Yeah.
So I start doing that. I convince myself, and kind of around that time, the youth group gets a new youth minister. Her name was Nicole Kindle. Her name's Nicole DeLallo now. She's gotten married. I think you probably knew her.
Yeah. Where did I know her? I don't know.
She was only in Louisville for like a year and a half.
Yeah.
And like most of that was COVID, which is like wild in itself. Like this person comes in, she comes from Florida. She grew up in Florida, comes to Louisville for like a year and a half, has this like profound impact on me, which I'll get to, and then leaves. It's just like gone forever.
That's how the Holy Spirit works.
So yeah, so I, new youth minister, get along with her well. Youth group's going great. Good group of friends, as before. And this idea of the priesthood comes up like a couple of times in like youth groups. Some of the things get mentioned, like in this diocese, this is still true, but it really stuck with me. In this diocese, there's more parishes than there are priests.
Wow.
Which is challenging. And that was like, oh my gosh, maybe I'm needed. And there's like a 2-week period where like cannot get off my mind. Like, what if I'm called to the priesthood? This is like a couple months into taking the faith seriously, going to mass, going to confession. It's like just constantly on my mind. And so I go to this youth minister 2 weeks into this, and I'm like, yeah, I like think I might be called to the priesthood. Like I can't avoid it. I can't escape it. And she says, we have like a whole conversation, talk to her for like probably an hour. I don't remember most of it. I wish I could like go back and watch it on a TV or something. Yeah. But I only remember 2 things she said to me. One was, the day that I met you, I knew that you were called to be a priest, which is wild because I somehow remember the day that we met, and it was very uneventful. It was like in the back of the church, somebody said, oh, hey, that's the youth minister. I like introduced myself, said hi. Like that was literally it. It was like nothing eventful, nothing impactful.
Wow.
Not even a full conversation. But the day that I met you, I knew that you were called to be a priest. And so I had this sort of like, I recalled the story of the priest that I met in Appalachia from Michigan. And I just said, I wish that the Lord would speak to me as clearly as he spoke to him. I wish that he would make it clear. And she said to me, Trenton, you don't understand. The Blessed Virgin Mary is speaking to me in this clear way, telling me to tell you to become a priest. And that was like the turning point. I was like, okay, like maybe you're crazy. I don't know.
Wow.
I think if the bishop had offered to ordain me like 5 seconds later, I probably would have said yes. Like I was so ready for it.
Luckily, that's not how it went.
Yeah, that would have been a bad idea.
We don't operate like that, people.
Were you at all maybe kind of scared that, you know, so early on in your walk, like in the faith, you're being like, it, you know, you're just kind of getting into the groove of being like Catholic. Now you're like, wait, man, I might need to be the guy behind the podium, like too. That's a quantum leap
up at the altar.
You know, yeah.
I don't know if I was scared as much as I was embarrassed. I think that might sound silly, but I'm serious. Like I was afraid. Like I was like very committed. Like I'm discerning the priesthood now. I'm going to go to seminary in the next few years. And at the same time, I was like, a year ago, I was not going to mass. Like, and I just like did not want to admit that.
So
that
you
it
were
happened. It happened pretty quickly.
Previous thing.
Yeah. That that it happened so quickly. So like, I remember I told my mom like that night that like I'm going to seriously discern the priesthood. I think I'm called to the priesthood. I was afraid to tell my dad. But it's not because like I thought my dad would react poorly. My dad is like a very devout Catholic. He takes faith very seriously. It's because like I didn't feel worthy to tell my dad.
There's a feeling of hypocrisy.
Yeah. But like, but it was just like such this radical, like, okay, I'm taking the faith seriously now. And like so quickly, I'm like discerning the priesthood now. And like in my head, I'm like so ready for that and I want to do it. But like, I think I kind of knew deep down, like, okay, I still need to figure a lot of things out, you know?
Yeah. So did you ever tell your dad?
I did. Yeah.
All
I told my dad a few days later.
I thought you were going to be like a few days ago. Like,
I mentioned it to my dad yesterday.
I've been in seminary for a couple years now.
He like looks at the camera. Dad, I have something to tell you.
I thought you just joined the bowling league.
Yeah.
Bowling league, right. That's amazing.
But yeah, so that's all my junior year. Go through junior year. COVID happens. Starts the March of my junior year. It starts March 12th of my junior year.
I'll never forget it.
Is when everything went crazy, and then March 14th is when the school shut down. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that happens. Nicole, the youth minister, ends up moving to Kansas. I don't remember exactly when she moved. I think sometime the summer after my junior year is what I want to say. I could be wrong.
It probably is because a lot of things collapsed. I mean, that's when my youth ministry that I was doing with Michael Schultz had been there before, Father Michael Schultz now, David Vest and several others, but that all collapsed at 2020. And it's just how it is. It's unfortunate, but what a trial of suffering that was for everyone and even for the church. But what fruit will be born from that lockdown that basically forced some form of discernment, reflection, thought.
Yeah. Everything was like, it's so weird because I barely remember it at this point.
The last year.
Yeah, COVID was crazy.
Well, yeah, who would want to remember it?
When did I meet you? Because you were at my wedding in June of 2020.
I met you the day of your wedding.
Was it the day of?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's magnificent.
Yeah, because then seminarian, now Father Michael Schultz was the MC of your wedding, and I had what's your wedding day? What was the year?
It was June 19th, 2020.
Yeah. So yeah, Father Michael Schultz is relevant too. I met him. What? So I met Father Michael Schultz at NCYC of 2019, I think. Were you at that, John?
I had just gotten married. That was the one I did not attend.
Okay.
I had been to the two previous before that.
Okay, yeah. I met him there, and he like took me under his wing super quickly. He was in seminary at Brute, and he invited me to serve your wedding.
Okay.
And I met you that day.
That's
I
awesome.
did not know you.
That's so funny.
I did not know like anybody else there, and I was like, all right, I guess I'm serving this random mass.
Yeah, and I think you had a pretty big part. Yeah, you were moving around a lot.
I don't even remember what I did. It was like super chaotic.
Well, it was 2020.
That's awesome.
Yeah, there's not a lot you want to remember.
Yeah. So,
Yeah, were you guys like masked up or something, or like that's.
No,
I'm not being ugly. Let me give
Let's turn this into a controversial
let me
episode.
give the I don't care. I don't care.
it was a crazy time.
It was
and
a
we
wild
just gotta
time.
just pray that continued
what's up.
healing and movement can happen from this. Greater fruits will be born from that time
That's
than
right.
not.
That's right.
But this was all right before your senior year of high school.
yeah. And I'm actually like, as crazy as high school during COVID was, I'm so grateful that it was like mostly over when I was in college.
Yeah.
Because that's like the so many people had such huge issues with the transition to college and COVID, and I don't know if I would have done it well. I would have hated it.
My sister had to deal with that.
Yeah. So,
Hard time.
but yeah, I go through senior year. I mean, it's COVID and everything kind of sucks, but I graduate and I'm happy and you know, get through it. I end up somewhere along the way as ready as I was in my mind to enter seminary. Like, it was kind of a couple people acknowledged, like, maybe you should go to college first. That was sort of the recommendation of a couple priests that I was friends with. And I had a really good scholarship to Western Kentucky University.
Mm-hmm.
So I went to Western on scholarship. And then somebody, I think before I went to Western, somebody mentioned to me the program that I'm in now, the Basselin program, which I'm happy to talk about. So
Yeah,
I'm sort of,
last time I saw you're happy to talk about it too. I've heard that about Basselin guys, is that they're always happy to talk about that program.
yeah, that's true.
Is that a phrase they train you
So
week
that's
one? It's like the Chick-fil-A phrase,
a
my
tri- a
pleasure.
trigger.
You have to be able to say that.
man, true candidate.
It also sets you up that anybody who's at TC, that you ask them, you're like, "Oh, are you in the Basselin program?" And
Oh,
they're
I'm
like,
happy to talk
they're
to
like-
you about the
they're like,
Basel.
they're either like, I'm happy to talk to you about it, or they're like, "No, I'm definitely not."
Yeah, well, you know, one of the unwritten rules of the Basselin program is to annoy the theologians by asking them complex philosophical questions that they can't answer.
So yeah, let's get
So
into
they
it.
all kind of hate us
That's
in a brotherly, loving way.
Playful banter.
So now
Yeah,
it's
yeah, yeah.
intriguing. So let's go in depth there. So what is the Basselin program? Just to kind of explain for
Yeah,
literally everyone listening to this has never heard of it, probably.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. So just like slight context, because this kind of comes to the end of like the entrance into that. I was at Western for 2 years and I studied philosophy.
Okay.
And I just like fell in love with philosophy. Is kind of the short version of that story.
And you had focus missionaries, right?
We did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You did everything John Soul did. You went to DeSales, you went to Western.
Dude,
Did you
yes.
study philosophy at Western?
No,
you
I
studied
broadcast journalism and theater,
that's
but I
right.
lived at the Catholic Campus Center.
Did you live at it's the Fratican?
Yes, that's where. Yeah.
Fratican.
Yeah.
It wasn't called the Fratican at the time.
You call it the Fratican?
The
No,
Fratican.
it came after me, shortly after
That's
me.
hilarious.
Interesting.
But
Please
Father
explain.
Mike
Somebody with a
Williams,
sense of humor got in there.
right. Father Mike Williams was my spiritual director, my landlord,
But yeah,
my second father at the time. I mean,
So he was gone when I started. It was Father
Okay.
Father
yeah.
Jason McClure is there now.
yeah, and he was the vocations director
Yes, that's right.
when I entered seminary.
Okay. Did you
For-
enter Fort Owensboro?
Yeah, for Owensboro, just for a
okay.
semester.
I didn't realize that.
So, but it was because of Western Kentucky.
Okay.
Father Mike Williams was the one who brought the focus missionaries. Father Jason McClure inherited that and continued it.
Okay.
So it's awesome that you were there. That's great. Go
Yeah.
Tops.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
go Colts. Right?
Yes.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
Anyway, moving on.
Yeah, their Newman Center's great.
Yeah.
At WKU. I had a great experience there. But yeah, I was there for 2 years. I didn't finish my degree in philosophy at Western. So the program I'm in, the Basselin program, is a transfer program. You start as a junior. So I applied to this program my sophomore year at Western. I had a ton of credits in philosophy. I was almost done with my degree, but I wanted to transfer. I wanted this Basselin program. So what it is, the Basselin program was founded by Theodore Basselin. People think we're named after Saint Basil. We're not named after Saint Basil, but what's funny is Theodore Basselin's middle name happens to be Basil. His name is Theodore Basil Basselin. But we're not named after Basil.
Sounds like a
It's
Harry
just,
Potter
total-
character.
Yeah, I know. It's so funny.
After a while, you start saying a word long enough, you're like, "What
TB
is this
squared.
even a word?" And
Yeah.
Basselin. You know, it's
Basel.
awesome. So, what is the Basselin
So
program?
founded by Theodore Basselin. Theodore Basselin was a wealthy New Yorker. He ran like a wood industry, logging industry. Had a ton of money, and kind of his inheritance. A big portion of his inheritance went to CUA, and he just gave the money to CUA and basically said, "I never want anyone to hear a bad homily again. So here's a bunch of money, and do something with it." And out of that, they decided they wanted to make the Basselin program in honor of him. And so it's ultimately ordered toward better preaching, but the way that they want to do that is by teaching philosophy.
Okay.
And so and a little bit of rhetoric. We have two rhetoric classes that we take. But really it's philosophy. So you start as a junior. So every seminarian has some philosophy. You have at least 2 years of philosophy in seminary. Basselins have 5 years cumulative. So you start as a junior, so you've already had 2 years of philosophy either at a seminary or, in my case, less frequently in my case, at a secular university. You start as a junior, you finished your degree, which I've just done. So it's 2 years, finish your degree. And
So
then
you just finished your degree?
Yes, that's
Oh,
right.
okay,
Yeah,
so-
I just finished undergrad.
Hey, congratulations.
Thank you.
That's awesome.
Thank you. Yeah, it's funny. It's like a graduation, but I'm still in the same program. Like I'm living in the same room, have the same guys in my classes,
So
same
did you have like
professors.
cap and gown experience, or what does it look like to graduate?
Yeah, I mean it's CUA's graduation. We went to it. We walked. The Basselins always go together, but we don't even get our own gowns because we know we're getting another one next year. We just have the gowns that we recycle every
That's
year.
what's up.
They're like the guy that we just pass down.
Okay, but you still got to put one on and walk.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
cool.
So we still walked. Yeah, it was awesome. Graduating is like, I sort of, there's a part of me that debated going to my graduation, but somebody made this point to me, and I knew I was going to go because it's like a Basselin thing. Like we all go, it's part of the tradition. But
Did your parents want to see you?
yeah, they wanted me to go too. It's like it's important to be there.
It's
so
a thing.
I was gonna go, but like there was a part of me that didn't want to. But what really it clicked with me that like really the graduation from undergrad is the only actual graduation because you're in grad school after that. Like you are a graduate, and so that made me realize like this is actually pretty important, even if I'm in the same program next year and everything. So.
Besides, you're posing for pictures for your funeral one day. I mean, you gotta.
Yeah, that's true.
I know. I figured I'd just go. Well, there's something to that, though. Thinking about not the death side, but there's some level of that's the last moment for most people of institutionalized education.
Yeah.
Right? Any kind of formation that's consistent from grade school to high school to college.
Yeah.
And then after that, it's almost like actually
Life's over. It's
you're dead. It's time.
It's more. Your
define
mortality is before
Yeah.
your eyes.
Can't
Well,
define
for
your
a lot of
life by
people,
summer vacation.
especially if you made the mistakes in college, it could be. But Father Mike Schmitz had a video recently about bushwhacking. The
Oh, yeah,
idea of
he
just
just the
going
program.
out into the wild and finding your way to a destination far off, but there are no trails, and you just got to knock down the forest to get there.
Yeah.
Terrifying, but yet that is like the essence of life after 22 when you graduate college.
It's not about
right?
the. It's not about the.
Everyone's got to do something different.
Yeah, he's like he in that video. He's like it's not about the destination. Like I graduate. That person graduated 2 years before me, and I should be where they are. No. It's about the journey. There is what makes you who you a saint. That's what your destination is, to be a saint in the journey that takes you there.
So how do you bushwhack your way there, right? So now you've just graduated.
Yeah.
How do you
And at what
bushwhack
point did
your
they
way
consider
there?
you a seminarian? 2 years ago when you entered?
Yeah, 2 years ago when
Okay.
I started. So yeah, the way that it works is first the diocese accepts you. So the diocese accepted me at the beginning of my sophomore year, and then so I go through sophomore year at Western, and then the Basselin program accepted me sometime after, as soon as my sophomore year ended, and then I started there as a
So was the
junior.
diocese would obviously have been aware of your plan?
Yes, yeah. They was like fully like I applied with it in mind that I would be going.
So were
to
you
the
on
Basselin program.
vocation posters in the Archdiocese of Louisville while you were a sophomore at
No.
Western Kentucky? Oh,
No. They update the posters in August, and I had finished my application, like in September,
So
October.
it's at the end of your sophomore year you're accepted, and then you enter.
I was accepted by the bishop the beginning of my sophomore year, but they make the poster in August, so they had made the poster before.
Oh, okay.
So I was on the poster at the beginning of my junior year.
Gotcha. Okay.
Which is when I started.
Yeah.
Help me understand, like, why is the emphasis on philosophy as a mechanism for training, priests to be better homilists, better preachers, right? And is that different than, like, let's say, like the Protestant evangelical development, William Jennings, Bryant, revival type?
Okay, I don't know those names,
Tent.
but I think I know what you're talking about. I think it's interesting because there's always a sort of conflict of interest when you're a philosopher. Whenever somebody says you're studying philosophy for something, because the philosopher just like wants to say, no, I'm studying philosophy because I like philosophy, because philosophy is good in itself.
Yeah.
And so like, why a philosophy program for preaching? My kind of case in point example is Bishop Robert Barron. Bishop Robert Barron is a Basselin scholar. And so we claim him as much as we possibly can.
Of course.
And his sort of method of evangelization, which I think is super relevant to philosophy, is show people the beauty of Catholicism, show people the beauty of the truth, and where they see the beauty of Catholicism, they'll come to see its truth and its goodness too. Like that will kind of follow naturally. So like, what does that have to do with philosophy? I think there's something in the mind of a philosopher which is able to captivate and explain beauty in a beautiful way. So like St. Thomas Aquinas has this great quote where he says it's natural for the philosopher to be attracted to poetry and to like myth and great tales, because the poet and the philosopher have in common that they are big with wonder. They have great wonder for the world, and they seek beauty. And I think that's sort of the attitude of like, if you make men philosophers, they'll be able to recognize beauty in a sort of unique way, and they'll be able to connect beautiful things to each other in a way that's conveys the beauty that is the truth of Catholicism. I think is the attitude. That's
what's up. I when you were saying, I was struck. I was thinking about Paul going to leaving. I think he had it was in Acts, and I forget what city he was in. Is it prior to that?
We're talking about the road, but it wasn't Damascus.
He was in Athens. He was in Athens trying. He was trying to preach to the Athenians. Yeah. He was using all this philosophy trying to, but it wasn't like reaching them for whatever reason. He said so on his way to Corinth, a city of pimps and thugs and dock work. It's like he's like I have decided to forget everything I know but Christ, right? And to preach just Christ, and he has massive success there. But like, I guess you're left wondering, like, what was the delta between why didn't philosophy work?
But again, it didn't reach the Greeks at the Areopagus with Paul's preaching. However, with John and the Logos, it clicks. So in the beginning was the Logos. So it clicks. So they had this other conception. So the unknown God preaching didn't work, but you can go back and say, hey, even deeper philosophy applied to preaching. Through the gospel, probably the ultimate preaching, right? Writing one of the four gospels applied here, it does work. And then, what was the reading today? Where was it that they first were called Christians? Antioch, yeah. So
I mean, think of it like this: Paul did a desired workaround to convince them. Okay, well, we're going to take something you already got in your culture, and we're going to try to get you to understand it intellectually, in your mind, theoretically, using philosophy, just the pure thought of thinking, right, or the study of thinking. And it didn't take on pure philosophy. However, but when it goes into as you said, the Logos, this idea, applied to preaching, priests are in the person of Christ, right? There's this embodied reality. There's an incarnational truth to your being, a gift to the church through your own vocational commitment. And it's that embodied visual presence of the person preaching these truths in that depth. It's not reaching here only, it's reaching here and here, because you're touching into their experience. You're using the beauty of what they're already attracted to, what they already connect to, what they already relate to, and that's where I believe it clicks. It's that movement from head to heart that's so hard to do. So hard to do, because you yourself said it was all purely intellectual for a long time. When did it get into your heart?
Yeah, and it's like still hard too, because like the philosopher, like when you study philosophy long enough, it's so easy to just get like all wrapped up in the mind. But sometimes you just like have to stop what you're reading and be like, oh my gosh, this is beautiful. This is like, and I like there are some philosophers who kind of pull that out of you. Like if you read I love reading Plato. Plato is one of the most beautiful authors.
My favorite food group.
Yeah, Plato. Kierkegaard is beautiful too. He has a beautiful style of writing. If you've ever read anything he wrote,
Sickness Unto Death. Yeah.
Okay, I haven't read. I've only read one thing from Kierkegaard, and I like loved it, and I want to read more.
Yeah. I also love fake Kierkegaard quotes. Like, there's a lot of them around, and they're always like, it's always attributed to Kierkegaard. It's like, I can't find anywhere where he said that, but I love this quote.
Yeah,
that's something he would have said.
What is the one that I hear the most is life isn't a problem to be solved, but a mystery to be experienced. Soren Kierkegaard. And it's like, okay, when did he say that? Never.
That seems like something he would say.
A lot of unfamous people use famous people, though, to get their ideas out there, hoping they go viral.
The best thing for me, I love Plato too, because the thing that you get from Plato is the only lens that we really get to see. Well, first, Aristotle being his student, and from that school, but then Plato was Socrates' student, and so you only really get to see Socrates from the lens of Plato. And so that's fun stuff too, because if we didn't get to experience Socrates, the gadfly that Socrates is, the world would be so much lesser in and of itself without all the philosophical content to Plato. Yeah, it's so good.
Yeah, I've thought about this. Like, if you kind of look at the history of philosophy, one of the things that I think is sort of unique about philosophy, just like as a field, is that in addition to just sort of like the pursuit of truth and like intellectual interest, there's a tradition to philosophy. Yes. Like when you really study philosophy, you're brought into the tradition, and Socrates is like the starting point to the tradition of philosophy. Like he's not the first philosopher, but like when you read Plato and you read about the life of Socrates, it's like this is like what I'm being brought into. This is what I'm signing up for. This is like what I'm going to devote my time and in a way my life to. Like ultimately you're devoting your life to Christ, but
even up to the present day, I'm thinking of Russell. Oh my goodness, who did Philosophical Investigations? What was his name?
Bertrand Russell?
No, Russell. He was a student of Russell.
Oh, you mean it's not Wittgenstein, is it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so
he's the only analytic philosopher I've studied is Wittgenstein. Okay.
So Wittgenstein was a student of Bertrand Russell, obviously, very atheistic, well-loved, Why I'm Not a Christian, that sort of thing. So then you get Wittgenstein, who's his student, but then you get this great Catholic tradition that comes from Wittgenstein, like Elizabeth Anscombe, who was at his deathbed, and he's like, you have to translate Philosophical Investigations from German to English, and then he dies. He receives last rites, I believe.
That sounds right. I think he requested a Catholic funeral, but he had, if I remember right, he had kind of a weird off and on relationship with the church.
Right.
I remember right.
And his students and friends were all Catholic. So, anyways, yeah. So he has a Catholic funeral, and but she knows no German. So like, and then so I have a copy of it, the first edition, English translation, translated by Elizabeth Anscombe, where she had to have learned German to have translated it into English, because her conception of German was less important than her conception of his ideas. So like, it's just there's such a personableness to that. Like, it's crazy to me. And like the fact that we only know Socrates through Plato, through another person, and there's kind of this relational aspect. I feel like philosophy's often thought of as an individual exercise.
It's a fellowship of ideas.
Yeah,
that's like the thing that Socrates hated the most.
Right.
Is like the idea that you're just like
but
thinking.
in modern day,
it's
like
dialogue,
you hear about a
all
philosophy
dialectic.
major, it's like somebody, they're sitting and they're typing at their computer, they're writing on a chalkboard, figuring something out by themselves. And it's such a group exercise.
Yeah,
It's such a communal
this
experience.
is part of the great conversation.
Yeah.
That's what it really is. We're all trying to understand, okay, who are we? Who is God? What is life? What does it all mean? And how do we move
Where did I
ourselves
park
from
my
the
car?
right? How do we move ourselves from the thought to the depth of experience in relation to the objective reality of all things?
I have a question.
Okay.
I have a question. At the Basselin program, or just in general,
He's going to want to talk about it.
He'll be happy.
Be happy to talk about
would you say that Christ had a philosophy, like something that if you could distill Christ's philosophy? I know that might be too big overarching, but like if
Yeah, Christ actually agreed with all of my philosophical takes.
yes.
Oh, good.
No, I'm just
good,
kidding.
good.
Anything I'm going to say from here on out is...
You're the prism
On
focusing.
some level, like, how was Jesus Christ involved in central? How did he play a central
great
role in
conversation.
all of this?
Yeah, it's interesting. It's like so like the sort of heart, the crux of Christianity is like fundamentally not a philosophical idea. Like it's a person, which is
Yes.
pretty profound in itself. Don't hit
You're
the
good.
mic. And so yeah, it's like does Christ have like a philosophical idea? It's like, well, no, like not really. Like the philosophical idea is come and follow me, which is like
person.
more, well, yeah, it's a person. It's more profound than anything like philosophical. But he definitely does like have an influence on the what did you call it, the great conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Like even among non-Christian philosophers. I have a there's a professor at CUA who he's pretty significant in his field. He's a phenomenologist.
Phenomena.
I won't even.
The study of the phenomenon of human experience.
I just learned something today.
Yeah. It's like
He's also the only person in that field.
So the only real relevance is
phenomenologist.
John Paul II was a phenomenologist. So like
Okay.
it's a pretty field which is like relevant to the church.
Wow.
And this professor of mine, he's like kind of significant. He has books that have been translated. If you've ever studied phenomenology, you probably read something he wrote. And he has this interesting point about what he calls the Christian distinction, where he says that if you look at sort of the ancient world, the pagan world, their view of God is that the gods, sort of the pagan gods, are within the world. They're entities within the world.
Yeah.
And what happens when Christ comes and sort of brings forth Christianity, we develop, or we're given really, this view of God, which is something altogether separate from the world, and altogether above and beyond the world, and created the world. And what happens when you have a view of God which is beyond the world is you have a view of humanity which is able to peer beyond the world and look beyond the world in order to look to God. And so that sort of enters into the great conversation. There comes to a recognition of that. And he made this point once in class that in the post-Christian world, everybody seeks to look beyond the world and to put themselves as something above the world, which is sort of right to do, but it's only right to do in reference to God, which gave us that idea. And so it's like Christianity is just like wildly inescapable now. Like even if you're not Christian, like the Christ event like shaped everything and changed everything and changed everything about philosophy, which is one of the reasons I love Kierkegaard, by the way. Like Kierkegaard is so wildly unafraid to fit his philosophy in Christianity and fit his Christianity in philosophy in a way that I just like found beautiful when I just read the Philosophical Fragments is the only thing of his I've read.
I think one of the powerful things about this whole conversation is that reality of Christ being at the center of all of this in a way where our philosophy can find a purpose, a destination. Your philosophy without a person to which you are destined to be with for all eternity in relationship with suddenly leads you to a vacuum of your own self-perceptive ideas. And all of a sudden I am swimming around in my own thinking. Well, have fun being in hell. Like, that's what you can do. And so you can philosophize yourself, meaning you can justify your own ideas and beliefs and behaviors until you're in hell. Self-isolation. And so the church is not meant to be a place where we feed and breed people living in collective isolation, strangers, right? We're meant to be people who are deep in contemplative prayer, in the silence of adoration, but capable of being human in our interactions with each other if someone were to burst into our reality unexpectedly.
Exactly.
Right?
Like philosophy can't get you to the mystical, right? The supernatural component that's, that is reality, that is Christ, right? He said he is in fact a supernatural phenomenon in human history. Like there's a before Christ, like an after Christ.
Yeah.
Yes. And I think of John Paul II's thought, like, can you speak to his relationship, you mentioned him, to philosophy and what he did to the philosophical world today?
That's interesting. I don't know if I have a great answer to that question.
Sure.
Yeah, because I can comment on his philosophical background, but that's kind of all I can do.
Sure.
Like he's a phenomenologist. He's very inspired by Husserl. He's very inspired by Saint Teresa Benedict of the Cross, Edith Stein, which I think his phenomenology in some ways certainly influenced his papacy. I think it influenced his theology of the body too. But I don't know enough about it to be the one to comment on it, because I don't know. I've never read his philosophical works. He's not he's not someone you normally read when you're studying these things, which is kind of sad. Like we probably should read him because he was a pope, but
pretty influential pope too.
But yeah, when you're studying phenomenology, you usually read you either read Husserl, who's sort of the first phenomenologist, or you read Monsignor Sokolowski, who's a professor I mentioned earlier, who kind of wrote the introduction to phenomenology.
JP2 was fairly recent too, so it's going to take some time.
Yeah.
Well, what would you say is a definition for phenomenology? Like it is not underneath philosophy, it's adjacent to.
I would put it underneath philosophy.
It's underneath, okay.
Yeah, phenomenology. If we're looking at it technically, and I'm not a phenomenologist like at all. Like I've read a little bit of Husserl and that's about it. But
it's like one of those things. If somebody's having a medical episode, it's like, I need a doctor. I'm a phenomenologist. No, I need a medical doctor. Okay, I'm a dermatologist. No.
But yeah, it's phenomenology. Kind of in the abstract is as you see the development is there's okay, this is a tangent and I'm going to try to make the tangent quick and interesting, but it's important to understand metaphysics to understand phenomenology, like what metaphysics is and how phenomenology comes out of it. Metaphysics is a fancy word that people are scared of. All it means is the study of being, and being encompasses everything. So biology is the study of living beings insofar as they're living beings. Whereas cetology is study of living beings insofar as they're whales. Cetology is a study of whales. Yeah, sorry, I forget people don't know that.
You
but
made
it's
that interesting, though.
Yeah,
I mean, all of a sudden we're talking about whales. It's great.
Yeah.
I'm going to win on trivia night 20 years from now.
That's how my metaphysics professor always, he talks about cetology, and we're all like, what is cetology? He's like, the study of whales.
I told him.
I'm like so used to hearing it that I forget that people don't know that now.
That's awesome.
But metaphysics is the study of beings insofar as they're beings. Just like what do all beings have in common? What does everything that exists have in common?
It also speaks to the concreteness of existence and the stability of reality, because a lot of people don't have that. They're like, if I think, therefore I am, leads you to I think, therefore I am, whatever I think I am. You're making up your own reality, and there's nothing stable or reliable.
Yeah.
But that metaphysics, I think, is a key point here that gets you more grounded in stable reality.
Yeah, I agree with that. But yeah, where phenomenology comes in is there's a lot of challenges to metaphysics. And especially like in Germany around the time of Husserl, which is like the 1940s, 1930s. And there's a lot of skepticism about just like the idea of studying metaphysics. Like it's just like not what anybody's focusing on.
It's focusing on splitting the atom.
Yeah. But even in philosophical fields, it's like nobody's really studying metaphysics. Immanuel Kant is like kind of the guy who's credited with killing metaphysics, so to speak. So Husserl comes along, and he says, "Well, I'm not going to do metaphysics. Like I'm not going to radically change the German intellectual academic conception of this like anti-metaphysics, but I am going to like." He just says, "What I'm going to do instead is I'm going to seek to analyze everything that I experience from the lens of my experience itself." And so you read Husserl, and there's sort of a tendency to say like, oh, what's he saying about like the thing? And he's like, no, I'm not talking about the thing. Like if Husserl is going to describe like this mug, he's not concerned about like the mug in itself. He's not concerned about the being of the mug. He's only concerned with the mug as it appears to the human perception, which is pretty abstract and pretty complicated. And I don't have a great way to boil it down into something that's like immediately
that we can understand.
Well, no, I don't think that you can't understand it, but like this is actually part of my issue, like my difficulty with phenomenology is whenever I read it, I'm always kind of like, okay, cool. Like, what's the point? Like I'm not super into phenomenology myself, so I'm not the easiest person to
is that like
to
the
explain
whole
it.
Schrodinger's cat thing? Like, if the cat's in the box, there's one reality.
Oh, I don't know anything about Schrodinger's cat.
I have to say this, the best understanding of phenomenology, because having studied John Paul II, he has a focus on phenomenological personalism. So the person has dignity in the eyes of God because he was created in his image and likeness, certainly. But the man's perception of his own dignity and his own relationship with God in that dignity is based upon both his perception of his experiences and the literal reality of his experiences as a subject, as a person. And those subjective experiences have to be a way of interpreting our understanding of our relationship with God and the dignity we have been given by him to us, right? And so that is a slow process, and it's hard to analyze your experience based on your experience alone.
Subjective.
Because you can get lost in the relativistic ideas of, well, I didn't experience it, so it's not real. Well, that's garbage, right? If you are not grounded in absolute truth, in the unshakable reality of Christ and the trustworthiness of the church he established, you're in danger if you study phenomenology, no different than if you study philosophy. So you can get too grounded in your own personal experience or too grounded in your own personal thoughts, and neither are helpful, right? It's head or heart, and if you go either extreme, you end up in a vacuum. So balance. You have to have the balance between the two. It's the immersive integration. right? So that you can actually handle existence. That's my understanding of it in some sense. JP2 is deep, and it gets deeper, obviously, but your philosophy is, you're only 4 years in. How much more do you have? Or are you done with philosophy?
No, I have 1 year left of philosophy.
Okay.
So
but it's
I'm
not in the
working...
Basel program.
No, it is.
Oh, okay.
It is, yeah. I'm a Basselin for 1 more year.
Gotcha.
Well, you're Basselin for life, but I'm in the program for 1 more year.
Right. So you're a graduate and then 1 year of
grad school.
Once a Marine,
Yeah,
once a Basselin.
So you become like a doctor at that? Like,
no, so I get what's called a licentiate in philosophy next year, which is just like a master's degree.
Okay.
The difference is a licentiate.
teach.
Yeah, well, that's part of it. A licentiate is a license from Rome, so it's an ecclesiastical degree, whereas a master's is just like through any other accredited university.
Okay.
And a licentiate gives you the authority to teach in any Catholic institution in the world, which is pretty cool, I think.
That's it.
But it's basically a master's degree in terms of like the content and what you're doing and everything. But yeah, so that's what I'm working on now.
That's awesome.
Is the licentiate in philosophy, 1 year of that.
What a phenomenon.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like where things, it's definitely the culmination of the Basselin program is the 3rd year, because every seminarian does at least 2 years of philosophy. But if you go to like a college seminary, you do 4. You just get a degree. So like, there's 2 seminaries attached to the Catholic University of America, and the other one is John Paul II Seminary, and they just have everybody at JP2 who's not a Basselin just got like the exact same degree as me, and they have the same amount of philosophy. So, and that's not a specialized program in philosophy. So really, it's the 3rd year that I'm doing now that sort of makes the Basselin program unique.
Cool. That's awesome.
So I'm excited for it.
So your discernment at this juncture after this year requires how many more years before diaconate and priesthood and all
yeah,
of that?
so it's this year of philosophy, get the licentiate, and then I enter theology, which is always 4 years.
Okay, so you have 5 years left.
Yeah, 5 years total, God willing, before I'm ordained.
A deacon at that point.
A priest.
Oh,
so I'll be
your 3rd year of...
Yes,
Gotcha.
you're ordained a deacon. It's been at the end of your 3rd year of theology, but they're changing. They're kind of in the process of changing the program for priestly formation. There are some seminaries that are doing it in the middle of your 3rd year of theology now.
Oh, okay.
But like a difference of 6 months is not a huge concern. So, but yeah, I have 5 years left before I'm ordained a priest, God willing.
Excellent.
And 4 before I'm ordained a deacon, which is so much less time. Like when I first started discerning, it was 10 years.
Dang.
So now to be saying 5 is like kind of crazy.
Yeah.
Like it sounds like a lot of time, but it sounds so quick at the same time.
Are you saying it was shortened, or because you're further
Like
along?
because I've been in for
That's what's up.
for so long, because I've been discerning the priesthood for so long.
Yeah, but also they need you.
Yeah.
There's some level of an expedited process that feels like it's happening more and more. It's like baptism by fire. You're going to learn to be a priest because they're just going to throw you into a huge parish.
Yeah, there's
good
truth to
luck.
that.
I mean,
But 10 years is still a long time.
oh, of course it is.
Yeah,
sure.
that's not a
It's a long time
fastball.
until you get to the end of it, and then you realize how short it was.
Yeah, and then you could
Right.
be a Jesuit, and they have like 6 more years on top of that.
Oh, yeah.
It takes them a long time.
Shoot. Church moves slow in discernment, right?
Yeah. Which is really a gift in a way, because it's like, yeah, like you there comes a point in seminary where you radically realize how unready you are, and I don't think that feeling ever really goes away, but eventually the church is like, yeah, actually you are ready, whether you're ready or not.
Yeah.
So
Can you speak to the importance of discernment and the extremes you can take in discernment one way or the other? Like maybe the use of the word discernment may sometimes be too much or too little, or your attitude toward discernment could be too much, too intense, or too little, right? Like, can you speak to the importance and being responsible with discernment as well as, being open to it?
Yeah. I think the most important thing is, like what you said, to be open to it. Kind of let God lead you. So there's I guess there is kind of 2 extremes in discernment. One is like the idea that like, I absolutely need to be a priest. I need to get ordained as soon as I possibly can. I can't take any extra steps. Like, in sort of like a refusal to consider that you might be called to something that isn't priesthood. And like a desire to get into it as quickly as possible, which I think I kind of fell into. Like I mentioned earlier, like you could have ordained me the day that I started discerning, and like I would have been like, oh yeah, let's do it, which is like not a good thing, right? You need time to sort of let the Holy Spirit lead you. And so that sort of attitude of make this happen as quick as possible tends to take its approach in like, so like a lot of people are called to seminary, but like not yet. Right. So I think that kind of happened to me because like I initially planned to go to college seminary, but sort of the prompting of the Holy Spirit ultimately led me to go to WKU for a few years first, which was super good, like very, very good. And then the other extreme is just like never really following through on anything, never entering seminary, discerning for 100 years.
Analysis paralysis.
The valley of decision.
Yeah, because eventually what you have to do is you have to just like enter seminary. If you're seriously discerning, if you're thinking that you might be called to the priesthood and you've been thinking that for like 3 years and you're just not sure, it's like, well, you haven't entered seminary, so how are you going to know? Like that's where you find out. And if you're not called to it, then most guys, if they're not called to the priesthood, I think discern out in the first like few years. But it's like, yeah, it's not like shameful or awkward or weird to like go to seminary for a few years and then leave. Like we get people discern out. And
there was a culture where it was very weird.
And like
that
the
culture
50s
was dying. Like it was on its very last leg. And when I was in there, even 12 years ago, you know, but it wasn't nearly as bad. Like there were people shocked though when I discerned out when I came back for like the last couple weeks because the spiritual director told me just finish the semester out.
Yeah, that's pretty normal.
They were like, "What? You're still here?" And I was like, "Why wouldn't I be?" You know, it's not like some big thing, but it was like the best. I mean, it's funny. I was only in there for a semester, but I discerned for like a year and a half whether or not to enter at all, and it was just said to me over and over, "Unless you go, you'll never know."
Yeah.
And it was going that gave me this peace. Yeah. Be like, okay, now at least I understand what this is. It's not this weird, taboo thing that's nobody does.
Some serious stuff, man. You're like committing your life in that way. Like I'm shocked actually that people would. I'm not saying the culture was to shame people, but like you're getting grief because you're.
There just wasn't an emphasis on discernment or vocations for a long time. I don't think people had fully woken up to the crisis of faith that people were having in the culture. And now it's obvious. Once you see a global lockdown, and churches were deemed non-essential services compared to liquor stores, I mean, I think that's going to wake people up a little bit, So as young men discern, like, what would be your top advice for them as they consider this call?
Yeah, so I've thought about this question the past few days because I knew it was going to come up. And there's always like practical advice of like, yeah, eventually you just have to enter seminary, there's practical advice about being open and whatnot. This is the most important thing, more important than all of that. Have a strong devotion to the Blessed Virgin Mary. That's more important than all of it.
Totus tuus?
Yes. Devote your whole self to Mary. I've been reading St. Louis de Montfort's True Devotion to Mary. Mm-hmm. It's so good.
It's packed.
It's like wildly good. And that's kind of, I think, what inspired me to think like, yeah, if you're going to be, this is something he says that made me reflect on it. And sort of in tandem with something my rector has said. My rector this past year gave a series of conferences, the rector of the seminary. He's kind of the person in charge of our formation. And the conferences were about the priest is not only called to be like Christ, the priest is called to be Christ. The priest is called to speak in the person of Christ and to be Christ. And so your spirituality is as a priest to be Christ as much as possible, to suffer like Christ, to live like Christ. And something St. Louis de Montfort points out, Christ lived 33 years on this earth. 30 of them were spent with the Blessed Mother. He only spent 3 years in ministry. 30 of his years were spent with the Blessed Mother. And so if you think you might be called to the priesthood, you have to be able to spend 30 years with the Blessed Mother, because you have to be able to become Christ. And I think that's just like incredible. So that's the best advice, because she's the one who will really lead you and guide you, and you'll know if you're called to the priesthood. If you have a devotion to the Blessed Mother, you'll know whether or not you're called to the priesthood, because she'll tell you in time, one way or another.
What is it about Jesus' relationship to his mother, do you think, that acts as a kind of guiding light for young men who are discerning the priesthood, that are called to walk that walk?
That's interesting. What is it about Christ's relationship to his mother? Well, I think that she's ultimately she is in many ways the means by which Christ desires to express his love. So like this is a beautiful piece of human nature, is that God, for some kind of unknown and incredible reason, desires that we experience his love through others, which is why we have like friends and family. And so that like the sort of case in point of that is the Blessed Virgin. Like God desires that we experience his love through his mother, which is in an interesting way how God experiences his own love, right? Like in the person of Christ, experiencing the love of the Father through the Blessed Mother who raised him. And so I don't know if this is a super direct answer to your question, but I think it's like, yeah, if you're able to have a devotion to the Blessed Mother, you're able to experience the love of God in a way which is like absolutely crucial to the spirituality of a priest and of a seminarian by extension.
Yeah, she's the one who leads you to Christ more. She's always pointing you to him, and do whatever he tells you. Were her last recorded words. There's a mystical relationship they had, and then standing at the foot of the cross, behold your mother. He entrusted us to her, and her to us, and obviously the beloved disciple representing all of us. And if you're willing to be at the foot of the cross, though, that's the key. And that's what priests are called to be, to stand at the foot of the cross like the beloved disciple. And also, I think there's a power in this to really take into your heart, because, we're all laymen. We're going to remain that our whole lives. I will not be ever becoming a big P priest, but by nature of my baptism, I'm a little P priest. So all the lay people have been given that power to some extent, and the indelible mark put on their soul through confirmation, right? Can you speak to the importance of priests, ordained clergy, instilling that incarnational reality of being Christ to others in the hearts of the people you serve as well, so that they can be Christ, like a father should be Christ to his wife and children, right? What does that look like in the life of a priest? How can a priest, how will a priest do that in this culture?
Yeah, I wish I had my notes. My rector, he gave great talks on this, but I have a poor memory and I take notes for a reason, so I won't remember anything he said in the moment. But I think one of the things he said that was profoundly beautiful is as a priest, sometimes you'll feel like you have the whole weight of the world on your shoulders, because you do, because Christ did. And it's just like this profound reality that you are, as a priest, called to, in a radical way, carry the weight of the world as Christ did, and to carry that with Christ, which sort of means that like you have to give of yourself constantly, which is one of the reasons, notably, like that's why priests are celibate, is like so that they can have more ability to give of themselves to the church and to the people of God. So like, yeah, I don't know if that's a practical answer, but there's truth to it. It's like, say yes to everything you can. That's one of the things Bishop Robert Barron gave our commencement speech at our graduation. One of the things he said was, say yes to everything you can. Give of yourself wholly and totally.
It's beautiful.
With proper discernment and prudence, because
Yeah.
you're limited by time and space, obviously.
Yeah.
Right.
Whenever you can. That's the say yes whenever you can.
That's the caveat.
So yeah, it's always like, you do have to learn how to say no, especially as a priest. But yeah, it's like it's something you should learn for when you need it. Like when you can't give of yourself anymore. Because you're like so drained, which hopefully doesn't happen too often. But yeah, like say yes whenever you can, whenever is appropriate and prudent. Do give of yourself as much as you can, because ultimately that's how you receive. Like one of the great paradoxes of Christianity is that the more that you give, the more that you will receive. It's like, what does that mean?
Yeah, and the hope is that the things you say yes to actually fill you up to continue to be gratuitously generous with your time, your service, your gift of self, so that you can say yes to everything, every time, because you're guided only to the things that you should be saying yes to, and that God blocks the things that you don't have time for, and he doesn't need you to even consider.
Yeah.
Of course, we're imperfect in that, so
Yeah.
you do the best you can. But you still got 5 years of this, immersing yourself in this world.
Yeah. 5 years of, and then a lifetime after that of priesthood, God willing.
Right. My goodness. So much to this. Eric?
Oh, I was just going to see if Trenton wanted to plug anything.
Yeah.
Do I want to plug
Hey, you
anything?
got anything specific that is on your heart that you want others to know?
No, I think I've said what I need to say. I'm being told to plug. Oh, yes, I should plug that.
Good catch. Thanks, Patrick.
Hey, are you having a mystical vision right now? Or is Patrick Paris dangling a laptop over a camera?
That's clear. That's clearly.
I think it might be
They're
That's
not
clearly a
as contradictory as you
closely related to the Blessed Virgin miracle
They're not
of the
mutually
Sun.
exclusive.
Yeah.
This is awesome.
Yeah, I'm so glad you thought. Yeah, so there's a I don't actually really know exactly what's going to happen at this, but there's a thing called Flaget Day. I think it's also called Quo Vadis, happening on June 25th at Holy Trinity. It's just like a discernment event for high schoolers, high school aged men. So if you're a high school aged man and you're thinking like maybe I'm called to the priesthood, like this diocese needs you. And even if you're not called to the priesthood, like the diocese still needs you, the church needs you. And in order for you to fulfill that need, you need to have a chance to be truly open with the Lord, so that he can kind of tell you where he needs you. And hopefully we're going to be able to kind of crack into that at this sort of discernment day. If you're thinking you might be called to the priesthood, please come. What was it? Was it June 25th? Was that right?
Yeah, June 25th.
The information's on the Archdiocesan website. So if you just go to, is it archlou.com?
Yeah, it'll also
Vocations
be
or
in
something?
the show notes of this episode.
Oh, perfect. So just scroll down to the description or whatever it is.
It's excellent.
Yeah. It'll be good. I think all the seminarians will be there. So if you want to meet the seminarians, we're cool people sometimes.
Keyword is sometimes?
Yeah, we're cool people sometimes. We're usually, but yeah, it should be a good time. It should be a lot of fun.
It's awesome. Okay, well, I feel pretty good about this. Is there anything that you expected to be asked that we didn't even bring up? Because I know this is like one of your first times doing this kind of thing, so I didn't know you might overthink it, right? You're a philosopher after all. So.
Yeah, well, I did spend like the whole last week thinking about all the things you might ask. The only thing, if you want to talk about it, we can. It also might be like the most like banal subject ever. Is I thought you were going to ask me about my thesis. Because I'm writing a thesis for the Basselin program.
Really?
He was wearing a shirt that said, "Ask me about my thesis."
That's not true.
He'd be happy to talk about it.
Yeah, I would be happy to talk about it.
What's the subject? We can make it less banal if you're afraid it would be.
Yeah. So just like cut me off if
We
this is
will
like...
pump a bunch of culturally relevant stuff into it.
Just
Good.
boom.
Good.
Right.
Good. Yeah, I've been trying to figure out how it can be culturally relevant.
Well, we can help.
So because that's what I'm doing this summer. That's actually I'm living at St. Martin of Tours for the summer, but my only assignment is to work on my thesis. So that's kind of the heat of my summer. So the topic, I'm going to give you the title, and then I'm going to say what it means, because the title is like incoherent. The title is Thomas Aquinas and the essence that is esse argument for the real distinction. So esse, the word esse is Latin. It just means to be, E-S-S-E. So it could be translated as Aquinas and the essence that is existence argument for the real distinction between essence and existence. And what that means in kind of short is in created things, so in everything except God, there's sort of an inner principle, according to Aquinas, that accounts for what it is. So the word essence, Aquinas sometimes uses the word quiddity, which is Latin for whatness. And the word esse is just to be. So it's the whatness and the existence. So what it is and that it is. And there's sort of two distinct principles of being. And it's like a wildly debated thing among metaphysicians, among philosophers, about like whether this claim is true, like are they really distinct? Can you fit isness into whatness, or do they have to be really distinct within a thing? And so that's the thesis, is kind of analyzing that question.
That's awesome. Is isness into whatness?
It is.
They're not those, so they're not the same thing.
According to Aquinas, they're not the same thing.
So a cup is not a cup.
Well, no, a cup. So
it's like the Eucharist, right? Like, oh, this is.
Wait, no, don't go to the Eucharist. That'll be too much. A cup.
Okay.
So this is
with the cup.
Okay.
Use the cup.
Yeah. So what it means is there's a
Fair.
This is how it's described. There's a little bit of Aristotelian background that's relevant. Aristotle basically describes everything in terms of matter and form. So matter being that out of which a thing is made. So the cup has the matter of like, what is this, like porcelain or clay or whatever it is?
Yeah, a matter or a matter baby.
What?
A matter or a matter baby.
A matter or I don't know what you're saying.
What's a matter baby?
Oh.
Man.
All right, keep going.
You got me though. I'll give you that one.
So the matter is like out of which it's made, and the form is into which it's made. So the form of a cup.
It's made out of porcelain. That's the
matter. The form is for a cup is
a cup.
Well, the form is its shape. The form is like what makes it a cup, as opposed to anything else that might be made of clay. So like for a human, for example, the form is the matter is the body and the form is the soul, which is what distinguishes a human from like a corpse.
Yeah, because there are things in this exact shape that are not considered a cup because of what it's made out of. Because I would not drink from something that has graphite in it.
That's true.
Right?
Yeah.
It's made for like bits and drill bits.
Yes.
So like the
nuts
cup,
and bolts
so like
in there, right?
the cuppiness.
It's function.
Yeah.
Is it a function type argument?
No. Well, that's that. There's actually two other things called the efficient cause and the final cause, in addition to what he calls the material and the formal cause. Final cause would be function. So it's not function. It's just, I mean, like that's relevant, but it's not the immediate question. It's just out of which it's made, which is the matter, and by which it's made to the thing it is. So the cupness, so to speak, is the unity of the matter and the form. According to Aquinas, at least. Aristotle differs a little bit, but Aquinas is right. And so the essence of the cup is the cupness, which is made up of matter and form. So that's the whatness. But what doesn't come into play in Aquinas' view, is the fact that the cup exists. Like you don't see in this definition of the cup, like you see like out of which it's made, which is like clay, and the shape that it is, like that's an essence, but it also exists. And so like you can have this perfect definition of a cup and the cup doesn't exist. And so what Aquinas wants to introduce into the Aristotelian system is that you need a separate principle of existence, which he just calls esse, which means to be, is to exist.
Which is Jesus.
That gets back into metaphysics a little bit.
It's very metaphysical.
Through him, which all things have their being.
Yeah, so the reason it's relevant for theology, what's really beautiful is that when you look at, so in all created beings, essence as a principle is distinct from existence, which is why things are able to like stop existing. Like that's why humans are able to die. for example, which the soul still exists, of course, and the body still exists, but they're separated, right?
So you're saying there's a deeper metaphysical reality than essay?
Yes. Well, what do you mean?
Essay in the sense of the created reality of being.
Well,
But
so
there's a divine being.
Yes, there's a divine essay, but the distinction between creatures and God for Aquinas is that God's essence, his whatness, is existence, which is why God says to Moses, "I am who am. I am he who exists."
I'm being.
He is being itself, and so it's sort of the profundity of God simply is what it means to exist, and all other beings are an essence which God superimposes his own existence onto and causes them to exist, which is, I think, kind of profoundly beautiful, because that means that that the sort of relevance to what makes it beautiful is that if God is not holding a thing into existence, it wouldn't exist.
It's a staggering thought to think that, like when Moses went to the mountaintop, creation itself was speaking to him.
Yeah.
Like he's like, what's your name? Like,
Yeah.
you wouldn't be
what
able
do you
to
mean?
ask
What's
that
my name? I
question.
exist.
Right. Yeah, there's some relevancy here. It's so clear is that it gives people a sense of their own dignity, their own importance, and yet their own humbling awareness of their potential for nothingness.
Yeah.
In a way where they can say, okay, I'm made of stardust and carbon and skin and flesh and bones, but that's what I'm made of. I guess that's my whatness, but I'm formed into a human being made in the image and likeness of God.
Yeah.
But the deeper reality even than that is that God, who is the sheer act of to be itself, is what is holding my being in form and giving my body the capacity to be even in existence to begin with, and to be in the form it is, and to be animated to be alive. Like it's a Trinitarian relationship in some sense.
Is God gravity?
Right. But doesn't that inform our own attitude about our behavior and our decisions and our lifestyle? Like, I'm not going to ask this, but I am. But okay, yeah, you applied it to theology. How do you apply it to phenomenology? No, I'm not going to do that.
Oh, I don't.
That's a rabbit hole.
Yeah, I don't have an answer.
That's
for
like
that.
saying,
All
let's
right.
talk about the Eucharist.
I'm sure it's a rabbit hole, but I don't have an answer to it.
No,
Anyway,
don't worry.
I need to eat dinner, or I'm not going to be able to comprehend basic conversation, let
Hey,
alone
me too, man.
anything that Trenton says about his thesis.
There is truth to that. Well,
Fair.
Trent has been a gift to have you here. So,
Yeah, of course.
We'll have to come back once to get more updates next summer or the summer after. When
Yeah,
you're in town.
I'd love to.
Other times, just let us know. And any closing thoughts?
No, I don't think so. I think that's all. Yeah, come to the Quo Vadis event, or what's it called? What are we
Quo
calling it?
Vadis Flaget
Flaget Day. Yeah, come to that. It'll be a great day if you're a high school aged man.
Flaget Day.
Flaget
Got a
Day.
good ring to it.
June 25th.
Yeah. It's the
good.
first time we're doing it, so we'll see how it goes. I think it'll go really well, though. I'm excited.
Awesome. Well, God bless you. Thanks.
Thank you.
All right, everybody. Well, thank you again for joining us on a Spirit Inspire with Trenton. We just ask you to pray for him, pray for all the men in discernment here in the Archdiocese of Louisville, and for vocations in general, for men, for women, for holy marriages, because without holy marriages and holy families, we can't have holy vocations. So just keep us in prayer. We'll be praying for you, and we will see you next time on another episode. God bless.